Greetings, welcome to Facts About Everything. I'm your host, James Egan. Due to the release of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I had to do a video about Spider-Man. So let's look at the animated series from the 1990s. You probably have very fond memories of this show, but you may be misremembering something about this show. Let's look at the clip.
I'll show you. Hospitable. Oh, you ruined my surprise!
And this one.
This ain't possible. You can't do this. I just rewrote the rules.
And what about this one? Notice that a fist never connects with anyone. In fact, there is only 3 punches in all 65 episodes of this show. And even then, you can't even see them directly. Like, this is how he punches the supervillain at the spot. You see what I mean? It's not a direct punch. Instead of punching each other, in the words of the producer, every fight involved weird wrestling moves. And that is the first fact about the animated series, Spider-Man. Let's dive in. If you thought punching was the only thing they censored, you'd be wrong. Despite the fact Spider-Man obtained his powers from a radioactive spider, the word radiation is never said in the show because the censor board were worried the word would scare children, thinking that they get sick if they used a microwave or near a satellite. Instead, they substituted the word radiation for the word neogenic. Yep, no reference to radiation whatsoever. Wait, how does every single episode start again? Gun violence was banned in the show. Because of this, every police officer is equipped with a laser gun. When the writers were asked what is the dumbest thing the censor board ever said to them, they said one of their notes was, when Spider-Man lands on the rooftop, be sure that he doesn't harm any pigeons. Why would they spend hours animating pigeons just so he could knock into them? The censor board, don't worry, I do have facts that are not involving the censor board, but I'm nearly finished. The censor board would not allow any character to say the word kill, so villains would usually say they would destroy Spider-Man.
With any luck, they'll both destroy each other.
Because they couldn't say any word associated with death, they could never say Uncle Ben was killed or murdered. Instead, Peter says a criminal broke into the house. Ben tried to stop him, but the burglar was armed. I was so naive as a child, I just thought Uncle Ben wasn't around because he was in hospital. Sometimes the writers would have to discuss storylines for up to 10 hours per day. And you might think to yourself, wow, that's a good example to show that they really care about the show. However, a lot of the writers didn't know anything about Spider-Man when they started working on the show. They didn't even know what his real name was. Each script for every episode had an illustrated comic book cover. Spider-Man was voiced by Chris Barnes. Chris also voices Prince Eric in the film The Little Mermaid.
Mary Jane. Oh no, our date. I forgot.
Oh, come on, Grim. Don't start. Look, you're not still sore because I didn't fall for the Princess of Glowerhaven.
Chris Barnes would go on to play the villain Electro in the animated show Ultimate Spider-Man.
I have the power. If there's one thing I have, it's power.
Chris Barnes voices Peter Parker in a higher pitch to make him sound different to his Spider-Man voice.
You're really the Green Goblin. That tranquilizer must have gone to your head, too. Yo, Chrome Dome! The lady didn't finish her latte.
Edward Asner voices J. Jonah Jameson. Asner is best known for playing Carl Fredricksen in the film Up. Also, Asner would go on to play Uncle Ben in the animated show The Spectacular Spider-Man. When Spider-Man obtains the symbiote suit, which becomes Venom, he realizes that he can change his appearance with the suit. He tries to turn into that guy from Aerosmith. This is a reference to Joe Perry, who made the music for the show.
How about that guy from Aerosmith?
The creators wanted every character to have a different relationship with Spider-Man. Flash bullies Peter, but he's the biggest fan of Spider-Man. Aunt May loves Peter, but she is scared of Spider-Man. Robbie Robertson admires Peter and Spider-Man equally. J. Jonah Jameson loves Peter and Spider-Man equally. 3 of the characters on the show would voice characters in the Metal Gear Solid series. 4 of the main characters died throughout the show. Alfonso Ribeiro voices Randy Robertson. Ribeiro is most famous for playing Carlton in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Weirdly, he's not the only actor in this show that appeared in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. James Avery, best known for playing Uncle Phil in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, voices Iron Man's partner, War Machine.
That's ridiculous. Here's my press badge.
I don't see no stinking badge.
Star Trek legend George Takei voices Doctor Strange's partner, Wong.
But Doctor, how can you be so sure that it's him?
And there's another Star Trek reference. Nichelle Nichols voices Blade's mother, Miriam. She's best known for playing Uhura in the Star Trek series. Let's do one more Star Trek reference. Majel Barrett voices Mary Jane's Aunt Anna. She was the wife of Gene Roddenberry, who created Star Trek. Despite the fact Gwen Stacy was Peter Parker's first love, she wasn't used for the show. Because it's so famous that Gwen Stacy is killed by the Green Goblin, they didn't want to use a character that's been dead for 20 years, and fans would just be waiting, expecting her to die. In the comics, J. Jonah Jameson always smokes a cigar. This was removed from the show as it was considered inappropriate. The show did crossovers with the Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Captain America, Daredevil, and the X-Men. Gwen Stacy appears in the final story arc. The creators said they wanted to focus on Peter Parker more than Spider-Man in order for the viewers to care about the character. Yeah, that actually makes sense. I don't remember ever seeing what Spider-Man looked like without his mask in the 1960s show. In the comics, Black Cat can create bad luck for others. In the show, she has the same super soldier serum running through her veins as Captain America. I actually prefer the backstory of Black Cat in the show than the comics. The main villain in the series was the Kingpin. Although Kingpin was introduced in Amazing Spider-Man number 50, he became Daredevil's arch nemesis. When the show came out, it was the most successful show in Germany, Portugal, and Spain. The show aired in over 20 countries. Although it's very easy to make fun of the show because of the censor board, they do have a point. Despite the fact they toned down as much violence as possible, the show was banned in Hong Kong after 13 episodes. The show was infamous for recycling animation. Yeah, I love the show, but it was pretty damn lazy sometimes. There's one episode where Dr. Octopus comes closer with Rhino in the background. They use this shot like 7 or 8 times anytime Dr. Octopus comes towards somebody, even if Rhino's not in the scene. Neil Ross provides the voice of Norman Osborn, better known as the Green Goblin. He's the only voice actor to date to voice the same character in 2 different Spider-Man cartoons. He played Norman Osborn in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends in 1981. This was one of the first shows ever to use computer-generated images. I already mentioned this in my Ed Wood video, but the Scorpion is voiced by Oscar winner Martin Landau. After he won an Oscar for his performance in Ed Wood, he had to quit the show because he just didn't have enough time, because he was too busy getting scripts from all over Hollywood. The Sinister Six is renamed the Insidious Six because the producers thought the word sinister sounded too scary for children. Have you ever met a child that is just scared of the word sinister? Also, this show was on at the same time as X-Men, where the team battle a villain called Sinister. The show ended on a cliffhanger. Yeah, Mary Jane just fell in a wormhole and she never got reunited with Spider-Man. That was a really depressing ending. James Cameron tried to make a Spider-Man film during the 1990s. He wanted to use Sandman and Electro as the main villains. Marvel decided not to use these characters in the show in case their portrayal clashed with the film's depiction. Sadly, the film was cancelled. Sandman never appeared in the show, and Electro only appeared in 1 episode in the last season. In the last season, Spider-Man teams up with characters from Timely Comics, which was the comic series that Stan Lee was a part of before Marvel Comics existed. He teamed up with characters like Black Marvel, the Wizard, Miss America, the Thunderer, and the Destroyer. The Destroyer is the first character that Stan Lee ever created in comics. The very first supervillain Spider-Man fights is the Lizard. The very last supervillain Spider-Man fights is Spider Carnage. The second last story is Secret War. This is a reference to the biggest crossover series ever in Marvel Comics, where a being called the Beyonder gets a group of superheroes and supervillains and forces them to fight in order to see which is stronger, good or evil. Since the Kingpin is the mastermind behind most crimes, the character was based on Sherlock Holmes' nemesis, Moriarty. In fact, in the cartoon, the Kingpin's real name is Wilson Moriarty. He changed his name to Wilson Fisk, and he erased all traces of his previous life. If the show wasn't cancelled, Wilson Fisk's son, Richard Fisk, better known as the Rose, would have become the new Kingpin. One of the kids tells Spider-Man that she thought he was, quote, from a dying planet and his parents sent him here on a little spaceship. This is an obvious reference to Superman. Betty Brant was meant to appear in the series, but the writers didn't know how to implement her. In the comics, she was J. Jonah Jameson's secretary, and a lot of people forget that she was at one point Peter Parker's lover. Weirdly, at the time this show came out, Spider-Man acted nothing like this in the comics. He was a very, very depressed, moody character after seeing so many people he loved died. The writers thought this would never work for a kid show, so they used the fun, wacky, jokey Spider-Man of the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. 2 villains that were supposed to be used, but never were the Beetle and Puma. Mary Jane disappeared after the Green Goblin threw her into a portal. She was last seen traveling through a wormhole in between dimensions. If the show wasn't cancelled, Season 6 would have had Man Webb helping Spider-Man find Mary Jane. The main plot would have had Peter Parker landing in Victoria, England with amnesia, hunting down Jack the Ripper, who is actually Carnage. And for the final fact, although Spider-Man never did reunite with Mary Jane, it did have a satisfying ending because Spider-Man finally got to meet his creator, Stan Lee.
Spider-Man? Pam, hold my calls for a while. I think I've finally gone crazy.
That's right, Stan Lee was making cameos way before the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe. Please let me know if there's any other Spider-Man characters you want me to do a video about. To learn more facts, check out my books. They're available on Amazon on paperback and Kindle. Thanks for watching, see you again.